My best should not come at the cost of my well-being and my peace. It should not be at the expense of keeping me small and keeping me from doing things that I want to try. I think I deserve better than that. Perfectionism has made my life so hard. Imagine being taught that you have to always give 110%. Nothing short of perfect is acceptable. Though you were told that it was okay for you to do your best, the amount of judgment and toxic criticism you experienced taught you that the only way to stay truly safe was to be perfect. Going above and beyond is highly praised in our society, but the consequences of being perfect can be fatal. Living in chronic burnout and under this crushing pressure is no healthy ground for a balanced and joyful life. Today, I want to talk about perfectionism, how it can be a brilliant survival strategy for those of us who grew up with highly critical abusers, and how embracing a good enough standard can bring the peace that perfectionism never delivers. Hi, I'm Raysa, a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and I live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Welcome to hellotraumabrain, a podcast where I share my experiences navigating life with C-PTSD. My hope is to help destigmatize mental illness and provide support not only for those living with C-PTSD or loving someone with this diagnosis, but also professionals who support clients on their healing journey. Quick reminder, I am not a licensed psychologist or mental health professional. This podcast is not intended to replace or substitute professional care from a psychologist, therapist, or other qualified medical or mental health provider. If you believe you may have complex PTSD or any other condition mentioned here, please reach out to your primary care or mental health provider. Any individuals or resources mentioned in this episode are not sponsors of Hello Trauma Brain. This episode may reference trauma or abuse. Listener discretion is advised. Please remember, you can always pause or skip this episode at any time. And now, let's get back to the show. Hello, dear survivors, and welcome to this episode of Hello Trauma Brain. Thank you so much for joining me today. Here's a gentle reminder to hit the like button if you are listening on YouTube to let me know that this episode was helpful. Also, I want to invite you to subscribe so you can know when the next episode of Hello Trauma Brain is available. A new episode drops every other Thursday. Before I go on, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that things are really hard right now. As I sit here, Greta Thunberg has been released from her imprisonment, her kidnapping. Greta and other people who were trying to get aid to the victims in Gaza were kidnapped and punished, abused. This situation is absolutely horrific. What leaves me speechless is how inspiring Greta is, despite everything that she's been through. She didn't get released and went away. The first thing she did was use her voice to bring awareness to the real problem here, which is the genocide that is happening. If you're having a tough time navigating the news, trust me when I tell you, you are not alone. What's happening is not okay. And if you are struggling, that is actually a normal response to a very abnormal and fucked up situation. Quick check-in. So I'm trying this new thing, the new schedule every 2 weeks. And I will say that it feels better for my nervous system to not have that pressure of producing every week. And I'm trying to figure out a way in which I can do this, have my rest, but also have enough time to produce the episode. And yeah, still a work in progress. I want to officially welcome any new listeners and also welcome back any of you that are returning for more episodes of Hello Trauma Brain. Thank you for being here. I wish you didn't need this content. I am glad that you have this content and may it help you in your healing journeys. If you are catching up on the latest episode, I talked about C-PTSD and rest. And to kind of give you all an update in terms of how my rest and my rest practice is going, I am getting a little bit better at allowing myself to have these little pockets of rest. I am starting to take more time during the weekend for myself, and it does feel nice. I do feel my body less stressed. I do feel less pressure. And this is really weird because it sounds very counterintuitive to me, but resting is somehow producing the energy that I need to do the things that I need to do, but I am not feeling that exhaustion at the end of the day, and that feels really nice. And I am still working things out, but I feel like I'm heading in the right direction with prioritizing more rest for me. And it just, yeah, I feel like my nervous system already feels like, boom, just calming down and not being in this constant state of alert and feeling like I am falling behind and feeling like I need to do better and faster. And yeah, just all that overwhelm alone. No, thank you. I don't want it back. So I am a Swiftie, and the latest album from Taylor Swift dropped this weekend as I'm recording this. And I did go see the release party in the movie theater with one of my friends today. And let me tell you, this is a newer friend. It's really nice to have a friend who also loves Taylor. And it was really cool to like both of us go together and like geek out on the music and sing and hang out. And I got us friendship bracelets, which is the first time I'm doing this. And I got them on Etsy, and it was like really exciting to get my friendship bracelet and like wear the colors and do my makeup with like the colors of the cover art for the album, and just to go and hang out with my friend and spend a Sunday like actually doing something super fun and not spending it trying to catch up on all the things. Really nice. I will say I am recording this the night of, so I am still doing something, but I used to like spend the entire Sunday like trying to catch up. So I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for spending most of my Sunday having fun and resting, and then I am trying to get a little bit ahead of the week by getting the recording out of the way, and hopefully that works out for me. I've been wanting to start a Taylor Swift vinyl collection for the longest time. And my friend, who would remember me saying this at one point, actually got me my first vinyl. So I can officially say that The Life of a Showgirl has become the first Taylor Swift vinyl that I own now, thanks to my friend who very thoughtfully gifted me this beautiful vinyl. I have to say the packaging and it's just the whole thing. It looks beautiful. So there are different vinyls that you can get, different types of versions of it, but the one that I got is the one that is orange and sparkly and beautiful, and I'm just yeah, really excited. And that's where I'm at in terms of that. I did have something very interesting happen last weekend. I had a gig last weekend. I was doing a charity event. I might have had like my first queer experience of like flirting with a lady in the audience, which was really cool. I noticed her pretty quickly in the night, and she was wearing a beautiful dress, and it highlighted her tattoos wonderfully. And at one point, I was able to go over and just tell her that her dress looked really beautiful. And that was like my little attempt at like doing something, but I didn't do anything else. At one point while I was singing Valerie, she stood up and was singing and dancing, and like we were making a lot of eye contact, and it was like it was just really, really cool. And something that I found very interesting was noticing how the energy is different from when I tune into the unavailable person in the room. I usually go for the emotionally unavailable person. And I feel like I still feel that draw and I can feel the pull, but now I can recognize it and I can go, oh, yeah, 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 this is the unavailable one where I'm trying to win them over, as opposed to like, I don't know, having this like very mutual little exchange. So then at the end of the night, I was pretty much packed up to go. I had changed, I had everything in the car. I was about to leave, and I see her. She's also packing up. I guess she might have been working for the event. I have a feeling she might have been. But her and I crossed paths again, and she gave me the loveliest compliments about my singing and my stage presence. And just, I think at one point she like called it like, you're just like star quality or something like that. And it just like felt really nice. And I was kind of like writing that like little, like, is she flirting with me moment? And then I kind of froze. And instead, I just said thank you. And I forget what the hell I said after that. But eventually, like, we just said bye and nobody exchanged numbers. I didn't tell her that I thought she was really cute. I didn't say anything else. I kind of just shied away, got into my car, and we waved. And just like that, she got away. She got away. She got away. Fuck. I didn't do anything. I didn't get her number. Oh, gosh. Shout out to Chaperone and one of my favorite songs from Chapel, The Subway. I will add the link to the video on the show notes. P.S. Super fun watch, and it's a gorgeous song. I feel like I am 37 going on 17, which is really weird because growing up, I always felt like an old soul, and people would say how much of an old soul I was. And I would feel like 17 going on 30. And it's just really weird to like now have that flip over. And it's like, how did I forget to flirt with people? How did I forget to like make a move? How did I forget to do this? There's a lot of conditioning that I'm trying to undo right now. And I will also celebrate the fact that I did practice complimenting someone and having that little moment. Let's face it, I have relational trauma. I have to start small. I don't think that me making the first move and getting somebody's number from the get-go was going to be the way I was going to go about this. And that's okay. I feel like that's a good segue into what this episode is all about, which is perfectionism and trying to let go of the perfectionism. Anyone else out there relate to this perfectionism thing? Do you also struggle with this? Do you also feel that pressure to go above and beyond and then beyond that all the time? It's exhausting. Where did my perfectionism come from? So, first off, shout out to my therapist for this episode idea. I was thinking about making this episode about how I feel addicted to doing things the hard way, but she suggested I made it about perfectionism. And if I really look at it closely and I hear what she was trying to say, it's kind of all linked. So I have been doing some dialoguing with my inner kiddo. And basically, that's a technique where I'm connecting with my inner kiddo to see what's coming up for her and where things are coming from. And during one of our sessions, what came up was that perfectionism is how she felt safe. That is how she feels safe. For her, perfectionism means I will not get criticized, I will not get mocked, I will not get judged, I will stay safe. If I can go above and beyond everyone's expectations, then nobody will have anything to criticize. And that's a lot of pressure for a kid, and it still is as an adult. I heard a lot of your best is okay and that will be good enough, but it didn't feel like it was when it came to actually me doing quote unquote average. Like if I performed average, there was a lot of criticism and a lot of you could have done better. And next time you'll get better next time. And the thing is that the criticism was so intense and it would go for so long. And then when I would get praised, it felt so good that all I wanted was to get that praise again. And just like that, I got stuck in this cycle of chasing, perpetually chasing this praise, this compliment, this we are now finally proud of you because you did amazing. That was perfect. I can't even find a thing to criticize this time. To try to replicate that every single time, whew, I still shock myself with coming to terms with the fact that I achieved so much, somehow, despite all this, I still achieved. I had a 4.0 GPA all throughout my academic history up to ninth grade. Then I transferred to a bilingual high school when all I knew in terms of the English language was whatever I had picked up from watching movies with subtitles. Like I knew a little bit of conversational and the little bit that they teach in the public schools in Puerto Rico. But when I tell you I got thrown in a bilingual high school that was 95% English and just the 5% was just the Spanish class that you would have a day, like once a day, that was a rude awakening. And I somehow managed to still graduate being one of the fourth highest grades in my class. It wasn't a big class. And even saying that, it's like, wait, I'm doing it. I'm not giving myself credit for what I did. Huh. And then college was, I was pretty much doing pretty well there, but it wasn't like a super perfect. But let me tell you, this whole time, even when I wasn't getting the perfect 4.0 GPA, I was still shooting for it. That was like the goal. And that was the only thing that I found acceptable. And I remember being very upset when right at the last minute I dropped from magna cum laude to cum laude, which is still honors, but it's that unattainable goal. When you live with this constant need to be perfect, and for me, it was perfect in my grades, perfect in my behavior, perfect in my singing, perfect in anything I did. I hold myself to this ridiculous high standard. I noticed that I would also put some of those standards on people. The closest you can get to me, especially before I started healing, the higher the standards I would have for you as well. And it's just not a healthy, not a normal way to live and not a normal way to relate to other people. I feel like perfectionism was a brilliant strategy for my inner kiddo. She was really smart to figure out that less abuse came when we were achieving more. But in reality, that was a fallacy. Because let's face it, we were still abused, even when we had the 4.0 GPA all the way up to ninth grade. And I think what makes perfectionism even more dangerous is the fact that it is expected everywhere. That usually tends to be what people are encouraging other people to do. Society puts the people that are getting it quote unquote perfect and flawlessly every time on these huge pedestals. And these people that are constantly striving for perfectionism are not only getting placed on these pedestals, but they are living under the pressure of having to live up to the pedestal. Let me tell you something about the pedestal. I've been placed on a pedestal so many times by people. I hate the fucking pedestal. Every time I heard somebody say that they were putting me on a pedestal, I would get so upset because I hated that pressure. To me, the higher they were putting me, the more painful the fall would be because I couldn't stay on a pedestal. That pedestal was like as thin as a needle. It's impossible. You always fall. In my case, I have always fallen from the pedestal. And we've seen people fall from this pedestal time and time again. How many famous people have we seen placed on a pedestal? And the moment they make the slightest mistake, one little mistake, they're shunned. Now they're being ridiculed, they're being humiliated, they are going through the thick of it, they're getting canceled, and people are just really cruel out there. I used to think perfectionism was the way to go. I used to take pride in going 110%. That was something I wore as a badge of honor. I felt good about it. I felt like if I didn't give it my best, like beyond my best, it was not good. It was not good enough, and I shouldn't be proud of it. And I shouldn't even bother trying. Listen to that. Imagine every time you are going to decide whether or not you will try something, your criteria is if I'm not going to do it perfectly, then I'm not even going to bother. Think about that for a moment. How many things have you not done? And sitting here thinking about that for a second, I couldn't think of anything, but something came to me. My original songs. How many years have I been talking about my original songs? And this past summer, I thought I was going to release at least the theme song for hellotraumabrain, and I did not. Granted, I have been looking into it, and I have realized that there are a lot more steps than what I thought it would be. So I guess I am making some motion. I'm breaking some of the magical thinking. But if I get real here, I feel like the perfectionism has been one of the main reasons I have not done much work on that arena. I still hear that voice that says that I am better at singing other people's songs than writing my own, which is bullshit, by the way. But it's still running me, clearly. And something else that has come up as I've been thinking about this is that perfectionism created the illusion that I was in control. I grew up surrounded by people that couldn't control themselves. They acted in ways that are unspeakable, and I could tell that they would lose control 100%. And for younger me to realize that and go, I can't do anything about it, would have been devastating. Of course, little me went, I can't control them, but I can control me. And I am going to give it my all. And I will avoid the criticism and the judgment and the abuse at all costs. And how do I do that? By being perfect all the time. I will not give them a reason. I have to sit with that. I feel like I heard that. I feel like somebody did say that to me constantly, like, don't give them a reason to criticize you. And I know exactly who it was. Oh my gosh. Did that happen? For real? Oh, Yeah, I didn't even realize that till now. Oh, okay. Another piece of the puzzle. Thank you, hello trauma brain, for this moment of reflection. Oh my goodness, this goes so deep. Can you tell how deep this goes? Do you feel the same way? I invite you to leave a comment. I feel like there's no way I am alone in this. Okay, I'm gonna reel myself back in from that moment. I legit felt the tension like rise up on my shoulders. There's a safety thing. Then there is the fact that I was raised and groomed and brainwashed. Oh, more is coming. I am thinking about how one of my abusers would say things like, if you're gonna do something, don't make porquerías. Porquerías are like, hang on, let me look this up. What does that mean in Spanish? I'm forgetting my Spanish these days. What's new? Okay, crap. So it would be like, don't make crappy things. I feel like porqueria sounds a lot worse in Spanish. If any of you listening are bilingual in English and Spanish, I'm curious to hear if you feel the same way. I don't know. There's something about crap that feels a little milder to me than porqueria. But anyway, one thing that I would hear constantly was, if you're going to make it crappy, don't do it. We don't do crappy things here. You don't want to give 100%. You want to give 110%, 120%. Y'all, I tried. I really, really tried for many, many, many years. I've been stuck in this cycle. I am just starting to like realize how bad this is for me. I'm just starting to try to undo it, and it is hard because before I know it, I am stuck in the cycle and I have spent 2 extra hours on something that probably could have taken 30 minutes because I have a hard time letting go. How does the perfectionism show up in my life today? All the time. All the time. I have a hard time trusting that things can be easier. Anyone else relate to that out there? I literally feel like I'm addicted to doing things the hard way. And not only the hard way, the hardest way. Example of this. Last week, I was getting ready for a conversation that I was recording with two guests for Hello to My Brain, episode coming soon. And I was working on the questions, and usually with getting ready, it takes a long time. But this time, I'm trying to do things a little bit easier. I'm trying to get into a rhythm, into a process. I have been working on improving the templates that I have been using to make things go smoothly, more efficiently. And I was working on the questions and I drafted the questions. Usually, my English grammar is just not as sharp as my Spanish grammar is. And usually I struggle with that. And this time I thought, I'm just gonna put them on the chat GBT, let it proofread it for me, and let that be good enough. So I tried that, and the AI cleaned it up, and I sent them to the guest, and it was like 35 minutes. It only took me 35 minutes to do that. I thought it would take me 2 hours. It took me 35 minutes. And my brain broke a little bit. I was like, wait, this is too good to be true. This shouldn't take half an hour, like a little bit over half an hour. No way. This should have taken way longer. Did I do that right? Are those questions okay? And I started second guessing myself. And then I started feeling shame that I used the AI. And I'm literally telling myself, it's not that I told the AI, write the questions for me, and I didn't even try. Like, I wrote the questions. The questions are 100% me. The AI just cleaned them up. And still, I'm feeling the shame because I used a little bit of help. Whew. This is also connected to the help thing. This is why I struggle with help so much, because if I get help, if I use tools, resources, if I somehow shorten the time that it takes me, it feels like I'm a fraud and I'm doing something wrong and I'm cheating. You know exactly where that comes from, too. The same person who was very critical of shortcuts. And the thing is, I'm not consciously trying to torture myself. But at the end of the day, that's really what ends up happening, because I cannot trust easier things. I cannot trust a simpler process. It feels like I'm doing the thing wrong. And I'm trying really hard to learn that working smarter, not harder, can actually be a really good thing for me. It is sad that I spent some time feeling so much shame about that, because I essentially had saved almost a whole hour and a half of time. And I cannot tell you that I used that whole hour and a half of time to just celebrate myself, because the reality was I felt shame right after and it felt a little bit wrong. It didn't go for an hour and a half, I don't think so, but I will say this. though I felt it, the shame was there. I was able to kick myself off of it faster than I would have in the past because I am starting to become aware of what's happening. I am starting to catch that toxic voice faster and I can go, "Oh, wait a second. Wait, stop it. This is not me. This is not my inner kiddo. This is our toxic bully, our inner critic. Fuck no. Fuck off. Get out of here. We deserve help. We're not cheating. We wrote the questions." And here's the thing, the guests, after they got the questions, one of them replied saying, "Good questions." And I was like, okay, like I didn't do it wrong. The questions are actually good. And we had a great conversation. I cannot wait for you to hear it. But seriously, the stuff is really hard. It's really interesting when I stop at good enough, when I finish the thing and I go, I'm going to let this be good enough, the urge to continue to go over it again to make sure it is perfect, like that urge, if I am not engaging with it, I'll start getting a bit of a headache and I can feel it, like it feels like it's the front area of like my brain. I don't know if it is my prefrontal cortex or what it is, but if I was drawing this out, there would be like smoke coming out of my brain as I'm trying to fight the urge. And I do notice that the OCD gets activated quite a bit, but also I'm noticing that if I can resist it, if I can really resist it, it gets a little bit easier and that sensation tends to go away. It's just kind of white knuckling through that part when your brain is just like, what do you mean we're not going to do the same thing we always do? Like, this is not safe. And it starts freaking out. I can even feel that sensation coming on as I'm saying this right now. I take a deep breath. Perfectionism sucks. It is the killer of productivity. It is the killer of joy. It really takes the fun out of doing things. When you're doing things and it feels like these really high stakes, like the perfectionistic high stakes, it's very debilitating. And it is not that I don't want to give it my best. I still do, but I feel like my best should not come at the cost of my well-being and my peace. It should not be at the expense of keeping me small and keeping me from doing things that I want to try. I think I deserve better than that. Perfectionism has made my life so hard. It has gotten in the way of many experiences. And I think what's on the other side of perfectionism, what is a healthy way to show up, still doing my best effort, but without sacrificing myself over it, is good enough. Back when I started this podcast, a different therapist I had at the time encouraged me to go for excellence over perfectionism. And that did resonate, but I have to say, if I am honest, when I hear the word excellent, for some reason in my brain, that's just the same as perfect. But I feel like when I started calling it good enough, that resonated more with what I am trying to make my new standard as I recover from perfectionism. Because I feel like I am perpetually recovering from not feeling good enough, for starters. And also, good enough is not perfect. It is a valiant effort that is going to suffice. And I feel like lately, when I tell myself, we're not going for perfectionism, we're going for good enough, there's something about that lets my inner kiddo go, oh, okay, I get it. And though she still wants to step in and be like, fuck, good enough, I want to make it perfect, I feel like this good enough is really the piece that's been helpful to us. And I'm practicing it even right now. I didn't do a lot of scripting. I kind of went for, I'm going to do a good enough outline for what I want to say. And I'm going to show up here and make a good enough recording and let that be a good enough episode. And not every episode has to be the most listened episode. It doesn't have to be an award-winning podcast episode. Like, I can show up on this podcast every time with a good enough idea, with a good enough reflection. And it's interesting, as I'm thinking about this now, I can think of moments in previous seasons where I've done an episode that was a bit of like an impromptu thing and something that maybe I would categorize as a filler more than a very intentional episode that require more preparation and more time. And sometimes those episodes are the ones that people resonated with the most. And I'm shocked because I'm like, really? I like threw that together and like half of the time that it took me to make the previous episode. And somehow that one's the one that really resonated. So I think there's something to be said about that. As I continue recovering from perfectionism, I guess the intention that I want to continue to hold is allowing the human, allowing myself to be a person that has a lot going on in her life, a lot of recovery, a lot of undoing of old patterns and old values that no longer serve me. I am allowed to have a messy process, a imperfect process. It doesn't have to be a luxurious, huge milestone every day. It doesn't have to be a record-breaking anything. It just needs to be a human experience. And when I allow for the human experience to be, the perfectionism can't really survive in that environment, because allowing myself to be human is the opposite of trying to be a perfect being. And then there's a thing about perfectionism being extremely unrealistic. It's not achievable. I was never going to get there. I think there's a bit of relief in taking that in and like letting all that pressure go. Like, think about that for a moment. Imagine letting go of that pressure of being perfect all the time. Imagine showing up and your presence is enough. What you do, say, how you look, that's all enough. There's nothing that needs to be changed. Imagine the acceptance and the freedom that comes from that. How much easier, how fun it can be to go through an event and not feel all that pressure. Imagine being present in the moment. So I feel like perfectionism takes you away from the present moment. At least it feels like that to me. It feels like when I am in this perfectionism thing, I am either in the future trying to plan how to avoid something, or I'm in the past trying to see how I can fix the thing. I am anywhere but in the present when that perfectionism is running the show. And when that's happening, it is literally stealing my actual life from me. Because if I am not in the present moment living my life, I am literally missing my life. I'm going through the whole thing and not even paying attention. It's sad. And I know that can be a hard thing to come to terms with. And I can even feel the, the shame and the grief that comes from it. But here's the thing. I've been doing the perfectionism thing for my entire life. I'm 37 years old, so that's a long time. And wow, that really hit me. Ah, I think that's it. Something that came up in therapy was, what would happen if I'm not doing the perfectionism thing? And if I'm honest with myself, what would happen is that I would have to sit with all the feelings, all the really painful feelings, and all the sadness, and all the pain. And I had to sit there and hold it. And it doesn't feel very good. So that's when the perfectionism kicks in. Because if I am too busy getting it perfect, if I am too busy redoing the same thing over and over, then I would be on a perpetual flight response. And if I can keep running and never stop running and always chase something new, then I don't have to sit with this. Then I can avoid feeling the thing. I can avoid the grief. I can avoid the anger. I can avoid all the things that have been inside me for so long. Also, back then, it is not like realizing what was happening was going to lead to me escaping. I couldn't go anywhere. I had nowhere to go. I feel like the perfectionism and the overdoing things, like keeping myself so busy I couldn't do anything else, was the only way that I found to safely set some boundaries, because I couldn't set boundaries. I couldn't just say, I don't want to go, or I don't want to do this because I don't want to. But little me find out very fast that if I had a really good excuse, if I had something going on that was perceived as being very important, then I would be left alone. And then they would accept that I didn't have time to do these other things they wanted me to do. And it was brilliant. I hid in overdoing my homework. I hid in spending so many hours figuring out how to make it through all these classes, speaking a language that I didn't speak, not knowing what the fuck was going on in the classes because I didn't understand any of it at the beginning. I got very good at it and I was able to understand what was going on in my classes pretty fast. But those first 3 months in that school, y'all, I'm telling you right now, that was no joke. I used to go to bed at like 1, 2 in the morning studying and then have to get up at like 5 in the morning to be on the bus by 6 a.m. No joke. That was my high school career. And in college, double major and a minor, a cappella group, college chorus, clubs. I was also working the most hours the school would allow, which was 20 hours a week. And somehow also maintain my social life. I've been running my entire life. I have been perfectly trying to run my entire life. Spoiler alert. You cannot live a life by doing that. That's not a life. And it's sad. It's sad to think that I have lived a lot of my life not living my actual life. But here's the thing. As painful as it is, I know deep in my heart that the work that I am doing will lead to me living a better life. I know I can get there. And I don't want a perfect life. I just want a good enough life. That's enough for me. Peaceful. Where I can go watch a Taylor Swift album release party on a Sunday, have lunch after that, hang out with my friend, get home, walk, record my podcast. I do not need anything fancy. And I have to sit and grieve the life that I didn't get to live before this. And if you have C-PTSD, you know this. You absolutely know this. And I do want to give you some hope. Because underneath all this pain that I have, all this pain that a lot of us feel out there, underneath it, there's a lot of joy too. I feel like I'm starting to see glimpses of the life that I love, a life that I want to keep living. And though it's not all the time, I do see the glimpses. And when I see the glimpses, I go, okay, this is fucking worth it. Just have to keep going. But it hurts so much. There's no other way to say it. I will never get tired of saying this. This is by far the hardest thing I've ever done. Ever. And also the best thing I have ever done. Whew. I think I needed that. I needed that good cry. And there's a lot more where that came from. But for now, what I will say is this. I know that perfectionism saved my life when I was young. Or the perception that perfectionism was somehow helping me maintain some control over a very, very uncontrollable situation. I know that helped me survive. And I am very grateful that I figured that out when I did, because I probably wouldn't be here otherwise. But I'm ready to let go. I am so done with perfectionism. I'm tired of it. I'm exhausted. I've been living in chronic burnout. And this weekend, I feel like I'm finally starting to enjoy moments of rest, legit moments of rest where I'm like, okay, I get it. This does feel way different than when I am striving and pushing and forcing and yeah, burnout doesn't feel good at all. And it's not sustainable and it causes more pain. I don't have another choice. I have to keep doing this. As hard as it is, perfectionism has taken so much from my life. And I think that good enough is more than enough. I feel like what I can do in a good enough standard is still pretty fucking good. I feel like it's more authentic. It's more real. I don't have to put up this whole thing. I can just show up as myself. Imagine that. Me being able to show up as myself. And this podcast has been a beautiful way for me to practice that. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going in a very imperfect way, and I'm going to celebrate that fiercely. I I remember being young and like getting the gold stars in school. Teacher would put like a little gold star on your homework, and I'm vaguely remembering like you could collect them and I would get these like rows of gold stars and I loved them. I felt so good about the gold stars. And I am going to start choosing not to give myself gold stars for being perfect. I'm going to start giving myself gold stars for being imperfect. Every time I do something and I just let it go and I let it be finished and I don't go back, I'm going to get a gold star. Every time I decide not to record something again, gold star. Every time I go, you know what? I don't have to time this perfectly. Like an estimate of it is good enough. Gold star. I'll sit with how that feels and see how I keep going from there. So, yeah, that's the episode. I'm going to let this be good enough and move on. In this week's healing invitation, I want to offer you a few things to reflect about. Think about what you consider a good enough standard. How do you show up in your life? Are you looking to do things perfectly? Or is average acceptable? If you find yourself wanting to be perfect, think about what is underneath that. What would happen if you do not have to do things perfectly all the time? Is there a feeling that you might be avoiding? What is it? Can you pinpoint whose voice is pushing you this hard? I invite you to pick a simple task, something that has low stakes. And when you do it, allow yourself to not push for perfect. Once it is done, let it be done. Do not go back to it. Notice what feelings come up. Please let me know in the comments how this episode's healing invitation goes if you choose to accept it. Before we wrap up this episode, all music and production are courtesy of yours truly. I love to share a few ways you can support this podcast. Subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or whatever you're listening. Share this episode with anyone you think might find it helpful. Follow the podcast on Instagram at hellotraumabrain. Subscribe to the Hello Trauma Brain YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when new episodes go live. And if you like, you can also make a donation via PayPal. Thank you in advance for your support. Even a little goes a long way in helping this podcast reach more survivors who could benefit from finding this content. No worries. Links to everything will be in the show notes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. I wish you the best as you practice letting go of perfectionism. It is time for our farewell affirmations. I invite you to repeat after me. I welcome the belief that I am enough. I am lovable. And I deserve to heal. May you stay well and safe. I will talk to you next time, and thank you for your presence.